10 movies that I love. We're doing one from each decade. We're starting with the 1920s. I started with this decade because it was the first decade where most movies were full feature-length films, hour and a half, 2 hours or longer. A lot of the films from decades before were only 10, 15, 20 minutes. And also, this has been known by a lot of critics to be the greatest decade in the history of cinema. It depends on how much those critics are fond of silent film over talking pictures. Definitely in terms of silent film, this is the greatest decade. And a lot of the European films particularly were the greatest, and that's not to discredit Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, a lot of the great American directors of the time too. We'll get to Charlie Chaplin in the next video, but over in Europe you had the German expressionist directors like F.W. Murnau, who directed Nosferatu and Sunrise, and you had Fritz Lang, who directed Metropolis. And then up in Russia, you had some really good directors like Eisenstein, who really utilized montage and some other technical things. He really innovated action scenes in cinema. And even over in England, Alfred Hitchcock got his start during this time. And in France, you had a lot of good directors, including Carl Theodor Dreyer. And my choice is his film, The Passion of Joan of Arc. First off, it's a miracle that anybody can even watch this film. Apparently 80% of all silent films have been lost over time, completely. You can't even watch them at all anymore. And this film was almost among them. Many copies were burned in a fire, and the film was thought to be lost forever. But somebody retrieved a copy in a hospital or some peculiar place like that, and that's when it was restored, and new life was really brought to it. So it's a very unique film among silent films, because most silent films, the characters are from far away, shot from far away, not too many close-ups, and they have a lot of makeup, so they have to really overact in order for the primitive camera to capture their emotions. But this film is shot almost entirely in facial close-ups, about as close as me to this camera, the whole thing. And it's interwoven with some really good action scenes, especially toward the end. But toward the beginning, it's mostly just close-ups. And you really get the weight of the characters' emotions through the camera and their more realistic expressions rather than their overacting and a more distant camera and makeup. So that is particularly what stands out. The acting is great, particularly by Marie Falconetti. This was her only film that she ever acted in. I don't remember why, but it's really surprising because she delivers a wonderful performance. Some claim it to be the best performance in the history of cinema. You'll have to watch the movie to decide for yourself. But a captivating performance nonetheless. You really understand the weight of what Joan of Arc had to go through. And this film takes place during the last few trials of her life. So, and the acting by the other performers is very powerful and intimidating. You really see how hypocritical these supposedly religious priests and judges are from England that are questioning her. And if you know the history of the Joan of Arc character, you know that she was very controversial and died when she was very young. She helped to deliver France from the power of the English during the Middle Ages. So this movie taps into all that. Apparently the dialogue, a lot of the dialogue is taken from the actual written dialogue from the trials, from the real trials. So it's definitely not a Charlie Chaplin comedy, so don't expect that. It's a very deep, powerful drama. Highly recommended, especially for first time silent film watchers. So that is what I recommend, and we will head into the 1930s in the next video.